Hello everyone, it's me again. I think you already know who I am, but I have to introduce myself. Okay, my name is Nicholas Tonda. You can call me Tian. So in this video, I want to tell you about flag of Australia. Okay guys, image if you were traveling in Australia and you saw their flag flying in front of a government building. Well, this flag is not just a blue cloth with white stars, but it has a deep meaning. First, let's look at the Union flag. This flag is in the top left corner. Why is there a British flag on the Australian flag? Because Australia used to be a British colony. Australia was inhabited by British people who built the cities and government there. So, but even though there is a Union flag, the Australian flag doesn't mean they are still tied to Britain. The Union flag here also symbolizes that Australia is independent, has its own government, and has its own basic principles of federation. So the Union flag on the Australian flag is like a sign of history, but it also symbolizes the spirit of Australian independence. Okay guys, now let's look at the Commonwealth star. This big white star is underneath the Union flag. It has 7 corners, each of which has a meaning. The 6 corners symbolize the 6 states of Australia. Namely, 1 is New South Wales, Australia's most populous state, famous for the city of Sydney and its beautiful beaches. And the number 2 is Victoria, the second most populous state, famous for the city of Melbourne and its thriving arts and culture industry. So number 3 is Queensland, Australia's largest state, famous for its Great Barrier Reef and tropical beaches. And number 4 is South Australia, a state with many deserts and a unique landscape, famous for the city of Adelaide and the wine industry. Number 5 is Western Australia, the second largest state, famous for its desert, coastline and the city of Perth. And the last one is Tasmania, Australia's smallest island state, known for its beautiful nature, mountains and the city of Hobart. So that's the 6 corners of Australia. So and the other corner represent Papua and other parts of Australia. So guys, why 7 corners? Because Australia is made up of many regions that were once separate, then merged into one country. This Commonwealth star symbolizes the unity of all these regions. Guys, okay, finally we see the Southern Cross. This set of stars is on the right. So, shaped like a cross, the Southern Cross is famous as the Southern Hemisphere, and on the Australian flag, the stars symbolizes 4 important moral values: justice, wisdom, temperance, and tenacity. So guys, cool, right? So the Australian flag is not just a colorful cloth, but a symbol of the nation's history, unity, and moral values. So what about the story? So the Australian flag was first raised in Melbourne in 1901. At the time, Australia was still a new country, so the flag design was not finalized. The design was changed several times until we finally got the Australia flag we know today in 1954. So guys, apart from the national flag, there are also variants of the Australian flag. For example, there is the Australian red ensign that is used on civilian ships. The Australian red ensign is similar to the national flag, except it's red and has the stars of the Southern Cross on the right. Okay guys, so importantly, the Australian flag has its own rules. It must be twice as long as if it is white, and the stars must be positioned correctly, so it's not just something you make up. Okay guys, maybe that's all about the flag of Australian, and maybe now I want to show you the video about the flag of Australia. So here we go.
The Australian flag has become a symbol of Australia, as every nation's flag should be. But where did the design come from? What does the flag represent? Were there any other flag designs in Australian history? Well, today we'll be diving into this topic and talk about the history behind the Australian flag. Our story starts in 1881 when Captain John Bingle and Captain John Nicholson designed a flag to be used as the national colonial flag for Australia. He claimed that the design had been approved by the New South Wales Governor, Sir Thomas Brisbane, in 1823, but yet there are no records of this. Despite this, the flag has been described as the earliest Australian flag, and this is the first time we see the Southern Cross appear on our flag. If we jump back to 1832, a flag chart appeared in a book called the New South Wales Calendar and General Post Office Directory. This included a flag that was labelled as the New South Wales ensign. It is fairly similar to the Australian colonial flag, and it shows a white British ensign with a blue cross with 5 8-pointed stars. The flag is to have been believed to have been used as a local merchant shipping flag in Sydney. The flag, however, was unofficial, and in 1883, the British Admiralty prohibited its continued use by vessels as it looked far too similar to the Royal Navy's white ensign. This later became known as the Australian ensign. Let's jump back forward to 1853 to the Murray River, where we'll see the next flag. This is the flag of the first paddle steamer. The first paddle steamer went into service on the Murray River with a flag flying called the Murray flag. Despite the flag being flown by many different paddle steamers, there is no surviving flag from the era, nor is there any drawings of the flag. The flag was described by a 1854 journalist report as it bears a red cross with 4 horizontal bars of blue, the cross being charged with 5 stars as emblems of the different Australian colonies. The illustration represents a reconstruction by Frank Haley in 1966. The flag still continues to be used by paddle steamers and other vessels on the Murray River today, despite a different version being flown in South Australia due to it being based on an alternative interpretation. Now to one of the more famous designs in Australian history is the flag of the Eureka Stockade. Gold mines in Ballarat, Victoria, protested about various problems, causing the short-lived Eureka Rebellion of 1854. At a meeting of 12,000 miners on the 29th of November 1854, a new flag was raised as a gesture of defiance against the Victorian government. The flag was dark blue with 5 stars representing the Southern Cross. The stars were joined together by a broad white cross. The rebellion ended on the 3rd of December 1854, with Victorian authorities storming the stockade and pulling down the flag. An interesting fact was that the flag was rediscovered in the 1960s and is now on display at the Ballarat Fine Art Gallery. In defiance to its authentic Australian heritage, some Australians advocate that the Eureka flag should become the Australian national flag. Now let's jump closer towards Australian Federation. There are many different flags leading up to the design of the flag we know today, but they aren't as important to this story. I'll still show some of the designs throughout the video. So in the mid-1880s, there was a giant push for the colonies of Australasia to federate into one nation. The previously Australian ensign was revived for use on land and was printed in reading materials and posters to promote the idea of federation. When Australia federated in January of 1901, the Australian ensign was used as a federation flag. Due to there being an unofficial Australian flag, it was still submitted in the competition. Now what was the competition? When the competition for the Australian flag was held by Prime Minister Barton, he also submitted the Australian ensign in the winning designs in 1902. He submitted the Australian ensign as an alternative if the first design didn't receive approval. The design was rejected without thought, as it did not conform to the style of the flags of the British Empire, and it was still used as an unofficial flag during the First World War, although it was very rare to see. In 1901, Australia's first Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Sir Edmund Barton, held an international competition to design a flag for the Commonwealth of Australia. There were 32,823 entries, and out of all those entries, 5 nearly identical flags were chosen. This is where the design we know today was selected. However, there was a few notable changes. The big star that we know today originally had 6 points, but would soon be replaced. The design was first flown on the 3rd of September 1901. The flag was altered in 1908 to have the now Commonwealth or Federation star with 7 points. 1 for each original state and another for future states and territories of Australia. Initially, the blue ensign, our current national flag, was limited to government use. The practice developed in Britain to use the British red ensign when the Union Jack was for government purposes only, soon followed suit in Canada and Australia, with both nations using their red ensigns of their national flags to show their patriotic side. Due to this, the red ensign has become now known as the People's Flag. The flag has relatively stayed the same since. There were more pushes for the blue ensign to be adopted in the 1920s, 30s and 40s. The flag became more widely seen in World War II propaganda compared to the red ensign in First World War propaganda. The blue ensign eventually was seen more with the Flag Act of 1953, which officially adopted the blue ensign as our national flag and has been since used. So what does the flag mean or represent? Well, the Union Jack shows the history we have had with the United Kingdom being colonised by them. The 7-pointed Federation or Commonwealth star represents the 6 original states that were federated, that being New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, South Australia, Western Australia and Tasmania, and the territories of Australia, as well as any other future states. The star is also seen on the Australian flag coat of arms. The Southern Cross is a constellation that can only be seen in the Southern Hemisphere and can be seen from anywhere in Australia. There are other versions of this flag used by the Defence Force, such as the White Australian Ensign, used by the Royal Australian Navy, which was introduced on the 1st of March 1967, and the Royal Australian Air Force Ensign, which was introduced in 1982, being used by the Royal Australian Air Force. Before these flags, the Australian military forces used the flags of the British Armed Forces. It should also be noted that the Union Jack has been used throughout Australia in history as an Australian flag on its own, but that quickly died out after the Second World War and the Flag Act of 1953. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like to see more like this, leave a like and a comment for more. Thanks guys for watching.
Okay everyone, so that's it, the video about the flag of Australia. So what do you think about the video? Is it a cool flag, right? Is it an amazing flag, right? So let me know your opinion. You can comment this video maybe that's all from me. Thanks for the attention. Good afternoon and have a great day.